Last Sunday, we featured a conversation with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a Democrat with a famous name, challenging President Biden for the nomination. He hopes to attract Democrats, independents, and what he called homeless Republicans to try to win next year. Polls consistently show many Americans not enthused about a rematch between Biden and Donald Trump in 2024. Well, now a petition drive is underway in the states by a group called No Labels to secure ballot access for a third option, a national unity ticket, to try to heal the country and find bipartisan agreement on big issues, from protecting Social Security to immigration reform. Joining us this morning from Washington, Dr. Benjamin Chavez, one of the national co-chairs for No Labels. Thanks for being with us here on NBC5.
Thank you, Stuart. It's good to be with you.
What is No Labels? Or maybe more to the point, who is it?
Well, No Labels is 13 years old. We are a group of Democrats, Republicans, and independents, elected officials, former elected officials, advocates of freedom, justice, and equality for all Americans. We come from various backgrounds, but what holds No Labels together is our commitment to try to find bipartisan, common sense solutions to our nation's problems. And I'm very pleased that over the last 12 to 13 years, No Labels actually established the Problem Solvers Caucus in the Congress of the United States on the House side. And that has been very effective in helping to get the infrastructure bill passed, the CHIPS bill, the latest debt ceiling. The members of the Problem Solvers Caucus was very active to make sure that we had Democrats and Republicans working together. And look what happened. Speaker McCarthy and President Biden wind up working together to get the debt ceiling deal. And that's what No Labels is all about, bringing civility back to our discourse about American politics, bringing civility back in our discourse about our economics, the economy, and all of the areas that affect the quality of life of all Americans.
Well, it's a statement of fact to say that Washington politics is toxic. What is the danger of continuing on our current path?
Well, the danger is that the best interest for all Americans is not being served. When the extremes take over on the far left or the far right, nothing gets done. When Republicans and Democrats and Republicans see each other as the enemy, mortal enemy, nothing gets done. And so No Labels and the Problem Solvers Caucus on the House side, and pleased to say that there are also a group of senators, both Democrat and Republican, who also work together in a bipartisan way. And they're all supported by No Labels. Very pleased with our progress. And as we face, Stuart, the 2024 election, most polls will show, even the ones that NBC has done nationally, that most Americans really don't want to see just a repeat of 2024. And of course, No Labels is listening and responding to the majority of American people. And one of the projects that we're now working on is to get ballot access in all 50 states and the District of Columbia as an insurance policy, quote unquote, to see if by next year there's still a lot of dissatisfaction with whoever the two parties choose as their main candidates. And but the key for No Labels is that we have to have a pathway to victory. If we don't see a pathway of victory or a unity ticket, that is a Republican and a Democrat or a Democrat and a Republican, then we will stand down. But we've always said we will not be a spoiler. We're not a spoiler for Trump. And we are only getting involved as advocates for civility, as advocates for common sense solutions to our nation's problems, because that's what the majority of American people have not only polled, but that's how they express. And the good news is, Stuart, just to report to you, that in the states where we've gained ballot access already, we've got a tremendous response from millions of Americans, hundreds of thousands of Americans across the country, who really want to see our nation, our democracy function better. And we function better when we work together, not at odds, but finding that middle ground. My background is civil rights. I'm an organizer, a grassroots organizer, mobilizer. That's what I learned from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And over the last 60 years, I've seen what works in America. You get Americans to work together, not only across the aisle, but in our communities and our states, our nation would be a much better. We need more unity in our democracy. And I know you're up in Vermont and the Northeast. I think that from even what we hear from your region of the country, people want better choices. And that is what No Labels is currently about.
All right. You've said it's too early to talk names. How would that selection process work? You said you'd if it comes to this, that you'd have a Republican and a Democrat, or a Democrat and a Republican on this alternative
Correct.
2024 national ticket.
Yes,
How would you choose?
And we will also look for those candidates that can win the number of electoral votes. Keep in mind, No Labels will not launch or name any candidates if they don't have a clear pathway to victory in the electoral college.
But who
Because
nominates Dr. Chavez?
anything less than that would be a spoiler, and we don't tend to be a spoiler. Well, we're going through, we will have an elaborate nomination process. Right now, we're working on the issues. The common sense document will be issued next month. And then as we get ballot access, we're listening to the American people. And names are already floating around, but we think it's premature right now to even call out any name. Because first, no infrastructure is in place. And secondly, we want to make sure that after Super Tuesday, after March of next year, sometime between March and the No Labels Convention that will be in Dallas in April, there's plenty of time to make a decision. But again, we're not running a protest campaign. It will not be a symbolic campaign. It will be a campaign to win if there's a pathway to get the number of electoral colleges votes. If we don't see that pathway to victory, then we will stand down.
Dr. Benjamin Chavez, one of 4 national co-chairs, along with Pat McCrory, Joe Lieberman, Larry Hogan of the group No Labels. It's a pleasure to have you here on NBC5. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Look forward to continuing our dialogue.
And we'll be right back.